So today's book review is going to be about Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman by Richard Feynman. And it's a book about Richard Feynman, the physicist, the Nobel Prize winning physicist who played the bongo drums and was generally a very delightful character. I'm a little bit conflicted about this book or about Richard because I googled, so right before writing this, I googled him and his reviews and just to find whatever I could find about him, and I rediscovered some things that I chose to kind of not think too much about, which is that there are a bunch of allegations that he was quite a sexist guy and he was born in 1918 and it's complicated. You got to look it up yourself and make your own opinion on what you think about it. It's easy for me to say, it's not that big a deal, because he was a prominent physicist and he did a lot of good in his field and he's a great educator. So I can overlook whatever. It doesn't bother me. But it's not too hard for me to imagine how, let's say I was a girl or woman and I wanted to look up and I was into physics and I wanted to look up a titan of physics and learn about physics, and then you discover that this guy wasn't all that great in some respects. He's great on a lot of fronts, but he also, his second wife, he married 3 times. Apparently, so it's complicated. I don't know the details. He had a sister who he supported, who became an astrophysicist, and he supported her in that. People argue about this, so you can look it up. So there's no flagrantly bad like example of assault or harassment or anything like that. It seemed like he was generally conducted himself, I think, pretty well by those standards. I'm hedging a bit, but I wanna just talk about my feelings about the book, and I personally love the book. I love Feynman's way of being, his style, his attitude. And you can find other criticisms that say that Feynman may have been a bit of a narcissist. He may have been someone who enjoyed flourishing and collecting anecdotes about himself, which I do too for myself. So if that makes him a bad person, then I guess I'm one too in that sense. But I think the general consensus you will find among people who read about Feynman, and you can go and watch videos of him on YouTube. He is so sincere in his passionate curiosity for things, to understand how the world works, to understand how things are. And so in one of his essays, he talks about like trying to pick up women at a bar. Let me see if I can find it quickly. You just ask them, which is page 180. Let's zoom to it. Let me read this out to you. So he was at Cornell, corresponded with a girl when he was working on the bomb. Blah blah blah. He went to a nightclub. He asked his champagne friend. Da, 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 da. I'm skipping ahead. Well, he talks about how he was like asking a girl out at a woman out at a cafe, and then the woman, he buys sandwiches for a woman, and he stops suddenly and says that she is worse than a whore, and he got her to buy those sandwiches and he's not going to get anything for it, and he asked her to pay him back and she did, and apparently I guess they ended up sleeping together. It's I don't want to be a Feynman apologist, and that's not kind of what I intended to set out to talk about in this video. But if you watch his videos and you get a sense of his voice, I feel like he would have meant that in a cheekier and more playful way than those words are being interpreted. But yeah, it's always disappointing when you can't, when your heroes aren't perfect. So is Feynman one of my heroes? in a sense, I would say, like, he when he is focused on his science and his learning and his curiosity and his teaching and his criticisms of, he has this essay called Cargo Cult Science, which is a very valuable framework for thinking about the pretense of doing science that isn't, kind of rigorous and questioning. I was scrolling through reviews on Goodreads and I found one that I liked. Here's one by Roy Lotz, and he says, "The qualities that make Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn so endearing are also the qualities that endear Feynman to me. Mischievousness, curiosity, cleverness, honesty, naivete, friendliness, frankness, an uncompromising moral principle. Feynman is always getting himself into absurd situations and getting out of them with pure quickness of mind. He likes to fool other people and play tricks, but all without a hint of malice, and he will stick his neck out for what feels right." And so, I feel like when, if you're kind of in a social situation, like in a bar, and you're talking to someone, and then you say, you're worse than a whore. I would never say that, but I feel like there are multiple ways to say it, if that makes sense. And clearly, I don't want to be discussing this in great detail, but I'm just going on and on. Feynman's criticism of the Brazilian school system, which relied too much on memorization by rote and concentrated too much on passing tests instead of teaching students how to make sense of the world around them, applies equally well to many aspects of the current US system and the Singapore system and like all educational systems. Equally relevant was Feynman's chapter on the time he served on the board that oversaw the evaluation of math textbooks for the California school system. It was a Kafkaesque farce, and by far the most consistent intellectual theme that went through these reflections was an absolute distrust of pretension, authority, reputation, convention, snobbery, and prestige, which I feel that, so if you don't want to read Feynman because you worry that, you don't want to support someone, he's dead, right? But you don't want to go through the work of someone who was less than stellar. I get it, you don't have to, there are other people you can read. But if you can kind of, pick out the good stuff and accept that this person was imperfect, I think that his way of being, his kind of playful, cheerful, unpretentious way of being is super good to borrow from, learn from. Like I pick up this book every once in a while to read again and again, not so much for any specific thing he says, but the way he says the things that he says. He's just so cheeky. I mean, even the title is cheeky, right? Like, it's describing someone thinking that he's joking because he says such kind of curious and silly and strange things. And in the beginning he talks about how he fixes radios by thinking. When he was a boy, he would just try to make sense of how radios worked, and he figured out why a radio wasn't working and he fixed it, and that surprised somebody else. And there's just something very powerful about this spirit of kind of cheekiness and desiring to understand how things work and figure things out. So he played music. He wasn't explicitly a comedian, although he was playing pranks on people and stuff like that. But I do think that there are some parallels between being comical in general and trying to just understand how the world works and trying to understand whether it's physics or social reality or teaching or whatever it is. When you have a deep enough understanding of how things work, there's always something funny about it. I think even Paul Graham said that good design is always kind of funny. Like there's something humorous about it. And I like to revisit Feynman to kind of re-imbibe that spirit, inhabit his way of being. And if you are kind of curious to experience that, I do recommend reading it. And I do recommend the book, and I hope you like it. I do. I like it.